Hello, epic entrepreneur. It's Tash Corbin here, and welcome to another episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. This is episode number 270, which means you can find all the relevant links and show notes for today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/270. Today, I'm going to share with you the speaking gigs that will grow your business, so that you don't waste time on speaking gigs that aren't necessarily going to take your business forward. You know where to focus your energy and attention. And I'm going to share with you the number one type of speaking gig that grows my business and gets me the most income every single time. So if that is something that sounds very exciting to you, let's dive on in. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. As a speaker, someone who loves teaching people and someone who loves themselves a whiteboard, I love being able to jump on stage and be a speaker. I am someone who adores the opportunity to present something, to hold space in a room, to be on stage. I love speaking. And I know that for a lot of people, when they're building their business, they see speaking as one of the most important avenues to business growth, being seen as an expert, developing their teachings and all sorts of different parts of their business growth. But not all speaking gigs are created equal. And so what I wanted to do was run through some of the most common speaking opportunities that you'll get when you are creating a business, and some of the most common speaking opportunities that you may have been told you should be chasing as well. And I want to go through them and dissect them a little in relation to how well they are going to grow your business and the impact that they are going to have on your income, as well as other factors in your business growth. Now, I want to just give the caveat before we start that I'm not saying you shouldn't do some of these speaking gigs. I'm just saying don't overestimate the impact it's going to have on your business. Yes, there are going to be exceptions to the rule. And yes, there are sometimes some speaking opportunities that I would say aren't necessarily that sexy that end up being amazing opportunities for your business because the stars align, or the organizer was a particularly savvy person, or it just happened to be like the perfect audience for you and you were totally in the zone. I 100% believe that the more you practice speaking and the more speaking events that you do, the more you're going to be able to grow your business. But I do want to alert you to the fact that not all speaking gigs are created equal, and not all speaking gigs are as sexy as the people teaching you how to get those speaking gigs might make them out to be. So, the first type of speaking gig that I want to talk about are free summits. So, these are multi-speaker events where they're online and they're free for attendees. They're generally organized by one person who's the main person, and then they invite a bunch of speakers to come and be part of that process. In most cases, in a free summit, the speakers are not paid, and in most cases, the speakers in a free summit are also encouraged, if not required, to promote that summit as a speaker. Now, the summit speaker model has been touted over the years quite prolifically. It goes through waves. I see waves of it being really exciting and encouraged, and then it kind of, people say summits are dead and no one wants to sign up to them, and then you see, oh, summits are amazing again. So very similar to most marketing strategies, they go through phases of being quite popular versus being less popular. Now, number one, I want to say that if you are thinking about organizing summits as part of your business growth, beware. It is a lot of work. The speakers don't get as many registrants as you think that they will. and the quality of lead that you get from a free summit is very low. So when I run my free summit, I run the Heart Center Business Summit. I haven't run it in a couple of years, but when I do run it, I get 1,000 to 2,000 people registered for that summit. I could probably get up to about 5,000 or 6,000 with really good ad investment. And those people generally are the highest unsubscribers from my list within the first 90 days. Now, that comes down to a range of factors. They didn't sign up to my summit to hear from me necessarily. They might have signed up to hear from another speaker. And that's totally valid. I'm not begrudging people from unsubscribing. I'd rather they unsubscribe if they're not really interested in my stuff. People come in for an eclectic range of topics and reasons, and it's not necessarily your topic or area of expertise. And also, people will sometimes sign up for a summit and then not realize like the work that would be involved in watching all of the summit. And maybe they also, if you don't give them access to recordings for long enough, they're like, oh, I'm never going to watch it. So they'll unsubscribe. So there's a lot of reasons why it's a low quality lead that will come in if you're organizing the summit. And also it is a ton of work. It is so much work to put on a summit and coordinate all of those different speakers, as well as coordinate all of the attendees. Whenever we run the summit, my customer service inbox blows up because people don't necessarily read the detail in the email. They don't read the instructions properly. They haven't got that email, even though on our system it says that they have and they've opened it. But, they're like, no, I never received the email. And so we need to do a lot of resending, a lot of explaining. My customer service workload goes through the roof whenever I do a free summit. And it doesn't matter how well organized or how prepared we are or how many scheduled posts we do. There's always going to be people who get stuck or can't find something or need help. And so free summits are a lot of work, and the quality of lead that comes in when you organize the summit is not necessarily that great. That being said, there's definitely exceptions. Totally understand. The last thing I want to say about the quality of lead when it comes to free summits is that the type of people who sign up for free summits generally are people who have lots of time but not a lot of money to invest. And so again, that can mean it can be a little tricky to then, if you're going to use that summit as a lead generation strategy for your business, it's a little tricky to get that conversion because there's not necessarily as much focus on investing to get to the outcome. People are very wary of signing up to summits these days. The people who aren't wary of signing up to summits are generally very new at this. And so that can sometimes be in your favor, but in a lot of cases, it can be at the detriment of this doing its job in your business. So beware. If you think running a summit is a great strategy to get your business off the ground and grow your audience and all those sorts of things, it definitely has its downfalls. The second thing I want to talk about is if you are invited to be a speaker at a free summit and you're told we're expecting 5,000 people to register and and you got all of these things. I recently was part of a summit. They said that they expected to get between 5,000 and 10,000 people registered. There were less than 500 people who joined the Facebook community for the summit. The final number of how many people were registered for that summit was never released to me, but I have a feeling it was around 500 to maybe 1,000 people. That's it. So they never have the audiences that they say that they're going to have. The conversion rate is very low. The sign up rate is very low. And when I presented at that free summit, the number of people who actually attended was about 25 people. If I had just run a webinar of that same topic area with my own audience and a little bit of promo, I could have got 500 to 1,000 people in the room and I would have been the only speaker at that point in time. So beware of free summits. They aren't necessarily a great strategy. Also, just a little thing here, because I've seen it happen a few times, I just want to make it abundantly clear that when you sign up for a summit, unless they make you check a box or give you the information on the page that says you will be added to every speaker's mailing list, they are not allowed to add you to every speaker's mailing list. And that has happened to me a few times when I've signed up for free summits. I've signed up for the summit and I've ended up on 25 people's mailing lists and got 25 onboarding sequences in the space of a week. And it was like a competition to see who could send me the most emails. And it was so much work to unsubscribe from everything. And I was absolutely blown away by that. And I can't believe how many times it's happened to me. You can't give people's email addresses to all your speakers in a summit. That's not a thing. People need to opt in to mailing lists one at a time. That is the rule. Okay, so free summits, speaking gig. I don't rate it, don't love it. Again, I'm not saying never do it. If you need to practice something, if that person's audience just so happens to be your perfect audience and you want to practice a presentation, maybe there's like some other reasons why you want to do it. As I said, I participated in a summit just recently. I probably participate in like 1 or 2 summits a year. And every time I do it, I'm like, I shouldn't do that again. And then it's usually like, I love the person who's running it, or I get excited by who the other speakers are. There's something powerful about, I've shared a virtual stage with this person and this person and that person. I totally get that. I definitely jump into summits probably more than I should. Even 2 a year is probably more than I should. But I understand the desire and I understand the drivers. I'm just saying, don't pin all your hopes on the summit basket. Use it as part of the rest of your business strategy, and don't let it derail you from your own specific marketing strategy as well. So that's number 1, is free summits. Number 2 is other people's stages for paid events. So that would be, for example, being a speaker at a conference, either online or in person, or doing a joint webinar with someone, either online or an in-person workshop. Being a guest speaker in someone's paid program or someone's Facebook group. So jumping onto other people's stages. Now, these have a range of benefits and things to be mindful of. And I would say I could do a whole conversation about being on other people's stages for paid events, because there's so many different options. You've got in-person, you've got online, you've got the attendees have paid, the attendees haven't paid. In this instance, I'm talking about where you're not paid as a speaker. So if you're not being paid as a speaker, you need to be really mindful about what the impact this is going to have on your business. There's an opportunity cost to you creating and presenting that presentation. There's an opportunity cost if you are promoting that person's event and saying, I'm going to be a speaker at this event and all those sorts of things. That is valuable real estate in your online presence and in your marketing that could have been dedicated to promoting your own thing. And so we want to be really mindful about that. Again, there are some times where it does make a lot of sense to jump onto someone else's stage. I have a client who's been asked by the peak body in her industry to present a monthly workshop every month for the year, and they will promote her. She is allowed to promote other free resources or trainings that she's going to be doing, and they have a ginormous audience of every single one of her ideal clients in the country. So that's definitely an opportunity where I would say, yeah, I'll speak for free. That's exactly my ideal client. And I have the opportunity to recruit those people into my own audience through that opportunity. So there are, of course, going to be some really great benefits to that. There's a big difference between that and speaking for free as a guest presenter in someone's membership that they're charging their members to be part of. There's 60 members in there, and they're paying to be there, right? So a lot of people, when we're talking about this, people come to me in the takeoff program or VIP and they say, I've been asked to be a speaker here. It's not a paid opportunity, but that person is my ideal client. I say, but they're already getting help in that space from that person. They're in that membership. You're not going to go into that membership and present as a guest presenter and then try and poach those people into your membership. They're not going to have both of those memberships at the same time. So let's be honest here. That's not a lead generation strategy for your business. It's not an active lead generation strategy at all. In fact, you're jumping in and like trying to steal people from someone who they're already learning from, and it's completely out of congruence for me. So just be mindful of what the audience is and the real audience size, not the potential audience size. What are the benefits to your business in terms of lead generation or audience growth or potential sales? And then also be mindful of what other benefits could there be to your business. So again, maybe you want to practice a presentation. Maybe you want to start becoming known in this space, and you want to have a go at sharing it with a much warmer audience who are more likely to be paying attention, and you know that they're going to show up. So there are definitely other benefits to it, but it's not necessarily, again, a strong business growth strategy unless it is a really large audience. Number 3, paid speaking gigs. So the way to turn that, being a guest in someone's membership, where there's no return on investment for you in terms of potential sales moving forward, or it's very unlikely, is to say to the person, sure, I'll be a guest trainer. Here's my speaker fee to do that. And I have done that in a lot of people's programs and memberships. I have a specific rate that I charge if they want to be able to do that. As part of that rate, I will share in certain ways about the fact that I am a guest trainer in that program. So it comes with a suite of benefits. I will do a promo of that person's membership. If they have an affiliate program, I will do an affiliate launch with them in some cases. So there's lots and lots of other ways that you can make it helpful for your business. And so if you can be paid well for that speaking opportunity and that makes sense for you financially, then great, right? That's definitely going to be income for your business. And also think of the confidence that it gives you to be able to say, well, my online speaking rate is $1,500 for a 45-minute presentation, or $5,000 for a 45-minute presentation, or whatever your speaking rate might be. So it creates that opportunity to be able to say you've done it before. You can, put your as seen ins and all those sorts of things, remembering that's like a 0.5 percenter. That's not why people sign up to work with you. But I know people love to put all of that, evidence that they're experts. So there are definitely some great opportunities for paid gigs, and it grows your business in other ways as well as giving you the income. I, in particular, love doing paid speaking gigs in person, like on stage type speaking gigs. They light me up. I'm really good at connecting with that audience. I love being paid, and I don't like to sell from the stage. I would rather be paid as a speaker and not sell from the stage. But then also when I speak on stage, I do get a lot of those people end up following me, tagging me on Insta. I get great photos. I make great connections, and some of those people might turn into paying clients. So for me, I love a good paid gig on stage. And, I'm 50-50 on paid gigs online, especially with everything that's happened with COVID. Of course, that's probably going to be more prominent as the speaking opportunities that come my way, but totally cool. So that's the third one. Now, the fourth one is guesting on other people's podcasts or YouTube channels or social media channels, those sorts of things. Now, this can be a really great one, especially when you're first in startup, as a way of being able to access different audiences, practice being a speaker and answering questions. And often that is also a way that you get content extracted out of you in different ways, because you're being interviewed and asked questions and you're speaking off the cuff. And so what I find for me is when I do those guest interviews or guest opportunities, I end up explaining things in a slightly different way, or someone asks a really great follow-up question and I can capture that and incorporate that into my messaging and into my content as well. Whenever I do one of those bloggy, interviewee podcast episodes, I am so excited. And I tag the person on Instagram. They tag me back. We share each other's stories. There's lots of reach growth opportunities in that space as well if you do it really well. But I also just find I put the dots together slightly differently, or I'm asked questions in a slightly different way. And it's really epic practice for talking about my work, talking about my concepts and my models in slightly different ways for slightly different audiences and practicing those. I would say that other than where I've done my own speaking opportunities, that is my second most favorite because it's generally for a larger audience. It's great practice. I get to talk about my work in different ways. I get to focus on slightly different topics each time. And it's just so conversational. And I think I really shine in that space. So that works really well for me. So if you also love a good conversation, you love a good giggle, or being interviewed, and you find that much easier than presenting, straight presentation, then guest opportunities can be really amazing. Now, little side note here and hot tip to get those guest interviews, start running your own first. I get people all the time who send me messages saying, you should have me on your podcast, or you should have my boss on your podcast, or you should have me on your podcast. And do I sign those people up and say, yeah, sure, I'll get them on my podcast? Unless they're quite famous, no. And unless I already know them, probably not. But the people who I get on my podcast as guests are generally people who've invited me to be on theirs, or I've met them somewhere else, or I've developed a relationship with them, or I follow them online and I reach out to them and say, hey, I'd love to give you a platform and share you with my audience because you're amazing. So when it comes to getting those guest opportunities, I would not recommend doing the whole cold pitch thing, or hiring someone to cold pitch for you, or that sort of thing. I would create relationships, invite others, create the space. Create the thing that you most want. If you want to be invited onto a podcast, create a podcast and invite others onto it. And that reciprocation happens a lot. And also, you then have the opportunity to show people showcase your skills and your strengths as a speaker, and build your audience, and then others will ask you as well to be on their podcast. So and make it really clear that you're available for speaking gigs. By the way, if anyone would like to have me on their podcast, I'm available for speaking gigs. Just get in touch. Right, now, number 5 speaking gig, and this is the one that will grow your business more than any other. This is the one magical speaking gig that out-trumps them all. This is the speaking gig that will make the most money, that will grow your audience the fastest, that will help you develop your business and your marketing and your models the most effectively, that will create the most connection with your audience. Your own speaking gigs, the ones you create for yourself. That is the best possible speaking gig you could get. You don't have to wait to be chosen. You don't have to wait and rely on someone else to grow the audience or fill the room. You are the main event. You're not riding anyone else's coattails. You are the person that people come to see. And there are lots and lots and lots and lots of ways that you can create speaking opportunities for yourself. And I highly encourage you to do them from day one in your business. So you could start a podcast. You could start a YouTube channel. You could do a regular Facebook Live. You could do a regular Instagram Live. You could start hosting rooms on Clubhouse. I don't really love that platform, but you could totally create regular spoken content for your audience really, really easily. So don't underestimate the power of free content, and you speaking in particular. I know people who do amazing things on YouTube, and they just have their face on the camera at the start, and then they're talking over slides. They're presenting basically a miniature webinar every single week on their YouTube channel, or they do that on their Facebook page. Go out there and start showing up. Now, my number one caveat when it comes to that kind of strategy, free strategy, so podcast or YouTube channel or Facebook Live or Instagram Live or whatever it might be, pick one channel that you're going to really nail consistently. Don't decide I'm going to do a podcast and a YouTube channel and this and that and then spread yourself really thin and never really show up consistently anywhere. Instead, just start with something that feels really easy and doable for you and then nail it and scale it. Pick the thing, own the thing. So if podcast is your thing, do it. If YouTube channel is your thing, do it. If Facebook Lives are your thing, do it. If Instagram Live is your thing, do it. Then nail that and scale that first. Number one. So your own speaking gigs. So we've got the early part of your client attraction process type speaking gigs. That is your reach speaking gigs. So that is all of that free and ungated content. People don't have to sign up to get it. They don't have to give you their email address. It's all out there on the internet. They can go and find it and you show up consistently in their feed with that particular content. Love that for you. Let's get that happening. Then we also have gated content. So that's speaking gigs. So running a webinar where people have to sign up and give you their email address, running a free challenge, running a summit. Don't love it that much. Running a conference. And that could be a paid conference. But don't feel like you need to put other people on stage in order for you to be allowed to have the stage. That's the number one reason why I see people running summits and conferences and, running these big group events and all that sort of thing. It's the same as when I see some people jump into these like multi-author book things. That's a whole nother conversation. But like even when they're really beautiful multi-author books, a lot of the people who jump into those, the number one reason they do is fear, because they think that a book that they write on their own is not going to sell and they're not going to do as well and people don't want to hear what they have to say. What an epically tight mindset that is to create something from, right? Like already you're in a space of lack and fear, not a space of abundance. Anyway, let's not jump into that conversation. But I just want to say, you don't have to invite people on to do interviews with you in order to have a podcast. You can do solo shows. In fact, I recommend 3 solo shows for every interview, even if it is an interview style podcast. 3 solos for every interview is the maximum ratio of interviews to do. So gated content, webinars are amazing. I always say if I had to start my business from scratch tomorrow, I'd run a webinar every 3 weeks, every 2 weeks. That would be my core strategy. I would just run webinar. You get better at presenting, you get better at the sales pitch, you get better at promoting it, you get better at the email sequences, you are growing your audience as you go. It's got short-term cash flow positive benefits. It's got long-term audience growth benefits. There's so many reasons to love webinars. I'll pop a link to my webinars podcast episode for you in this show notes at tashcorbin.com/270, because I think you'll find that one really interesting if webinars is on your radar. And then, of course, there's the paid gigs that you create for yourself, whether that be an in-person event like a workshop or running a day retreat or running a big retreat, whether that be organizing your own conference, whether that be organizing your own 3-day event that people can come to, whether it's organizing a networking event, whether it's organizing a workshop. Like there's just so many different ways that you can create paid in-person events, and you can also do paid online events. So I have the Heart-Centered Business Conference and I have the Heart-Centered Virtual Business Conference. Thank you very much, COVID-19. So there's lots of different ways that you can create epic events and speaking gigs for yourself. So the best return on investment for me, my own speaking gigs, regardless of whether that is my podcast or webinars or speaking tours or any of those sorts of things. That is what has definitely grown my business the best and the fastest. So there you have my take on 5 different types of speaking gigs and which ones are best at growing your business. I would love for us to continue this conversation over in the Heart-Centered Soul-Driven Entrepreneurs Facebook group. Come on over there and use #podcastAha. Let me know you've been listening to episode number 270 and let's continue the conversation. Ask a question, share a light bulb moment. Let's keep talking about this because I want you to be seen as a go-to speaker in your industry, and there are so many ways that you could be making that happen today. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. Until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.